Alrighty, so this is part 2 of the quadratic formula note. So if you haven't watched part 1, it's going to be quite confusing. Go ahead and start with part 1. So right here, it didn't go ahead and tell us what A, B, and C are, so let's go ahead and write it. So A is always the first number. Oh, there isn't a number there, but we know that's an invisible 1. B is -5. Do not forget that it has a negative in front of it. And C is 14. All right, so the quadratic formula. So x equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I just filled in blanks where there's a, b, and c. All right, so I'm going to plug in all my b's. My b's are -5 and -5. My a goes here, 1 and 1, and then my c goes here, -14. Alrighty, so all I did was just plug in those numbers. Now, the quadratic formula is something they're not going to give you on your EOC. It's just a way to solve quadratics. We've been going over different ways to go about it, and this is one of them. So let's go ahead and solve. We're going to simplify this a little bit. A negative times a negative turns it positive. That's a +5. Plus or minus the square root of -5 squared turns it to +25. Minus 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times -14 turns it to -56 all over 2. All right, we're going to go right down to the second level here because I'm running out of room. So we have 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus -56 turns into one big old plus sign, which is the square root of 81 all over 2. Oh, this is looking nice. All right, to the next step. 5 plus or minus, guess what? We know what the square root of 81 is. It's 9 all over 2. So we're going to break this into two equations. We have 5 plus 9 over 2, and we have 5 minus 9 over 2. 5 plus 9 is 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 5 minus 9 is -4 over 2, and that is -2. So our x is going to be 7 or -2. These are a lot better answers than those first ones, huh? Excuse me. I know that the quadratic formula is a lot of writing, but my key to you is to just do it one step at a time. Plug them in first. Then go ahead and just solve under the radical. Then when you solve under the radical, go ahead and simplify it as far as you can. Then split it into two different equations to find your two numbers. Because remember, in quadratics, you're going to have two numbers. All right. So I hope I have enough room in this next one because I didn't leave me much room to do. I'm going to make another slide. Because I feel like it's a lot of writing for one slide, or for two to do on the same slide, so let's not. Okay, so let's go ahead. It didn't tell us what A, B, and C are, but we can figure this out. A is the first number. It's 2. B is -3. And C is -5. All right, I didn't write it on this slide, but it's okay. I'm going to sing it. X equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so we have -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Oh, I'm not going to write. I don't know why I wrote an A. I got real excited. All right, so where goes my first blank? That is a B. So I'm like, all right, well, B is -3. That also goes here. A is 2. That goes here and here. And C is -5. All right, so I told you just worry about that radical, what's underneath there. So let's go ahead and just worry about what's underneath the radical. Well, you can do the first one as well. If I could just write today, that'd be wonderful. It's my nose. All right, so negative times a negative turns that positive to a +3. Plus or minus, let's worry about that square root. -3 squared is -3 times -3, and that is a +9, minus 4 times 2 is 8, right? 8 times -5 is a -40. All over 2 times 2 is 4. All right, so we're going to continue to simplify underneath that radical. 3 plus or minus the square root of. If you have a negative minus negative, that turns into one big old plus sign. That turns into 49/4. Ooh, I'm getting excited because 49 is a perfect square, which means I can go ahead and break it right out of that radical. So 3 plus or, wow, I don't know where I was going with the minus sign over there. Don't mind me. 3 plus or minus. The square root of 49 happens to be 7 all over 4. So if this is as simplified as it can get, let's go ahead and create two equations going on here. 3 plus 7 over 4 and 3 minus 7 over 4. 3 plus 7 is 10 over 4. And I'm going to go ahead and simplify that to 5 over 2. Please don't be afraid of fractions. Okay, if you got 2.5, that's okay, but I'm perfectly fine with a fraction. 3 minus 7 is -4 over 4, and that turns into -1. So these are going to be your two answers, -1 and 5 over 2. Or again, if you wrote -1 and 2.5, that's fine. All right, last example. If you're still with me and you still want more examples of this, I got you. What color? Let's do purple. All right, so I know I am going fast, and if I am going too fast for you, just watch this recording again. That's kind of the good thing about recordings. So A is 1, B is -4, and C is 4. Oh, x equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so negative b, which is -4, plus or minus square root b squared, which is -4 squared, minus 4ac. A is 1 and C is 4. All over 2a. Cool. All right, let's keep going. A negative times a negative turns out to a +4 plus or minus square root. -4 squared is +16 minus, I always write that minus because you never know. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. All over 2. You're probably looking at this going, huh? 16 minus 16. All right, so 4 plus or minus the square root of 0. That actually just cancels each other out, and we just have 4 over 2. This one is only going to have one answer because when it comes to certain things like this, when you draw this graph, it might end up only crossing one time. I know you're thinking like a U doesn't, but then there's also certain exceptions, and we'll go over that. But this is a really good example for you that just, if I trusted my gut, I knew what I was doing. Because this will turn into, 16 minus 4 times 1, 4a. Yeah, so we did it right. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording. Thanks for watching these examples. Please do make sure your exit ticket 7 is done. And make sure that your quiz is completed as well this weekend. Alrighty, have a good one.